Early inhabitants of the Americas. 20,000 years ago, Siberian hunters became the first American inhabitants. 14,000 years ago, humans reached the tip of South America. These Paleo-Indians did not suffer from many communicative diseases. Native Americans enjoyed an abundant amount of meat. 5,000 years ago, agricultural revolution increased in crops such as maize, squash, and beans. American Indian empires in Mesoamerica, the Southwest, and the Mississippi Valley. Anasazi culture lived in Chaco Canyon. They had a sophisticated irrigation and well-built roads for transportation. Adena and Hopewell peoples lived in Ohio Valley. They had large ceremonial mounds and extensive trade network. Cahokia lived in Mississippi Valley and also had large ceremonial mounds and a far-flung trade network. Aztec gained dominance. The Aztecs settled in the Valley of Mexico. They were the center of a large, powerful empire which was highly organized in a social and political structure. They ruled through fear and force. American Indian cultures of North America at the time of European contact. Eastern woodland cultures. The people of this culture lived on the Atlantic coast of North America. The Native Americans lived in smaller groups. They used traditional hunting and gathering methods and were likely the first natives encountered by English settlers. The arrival of white settlers changed the lives of most Native Americans in varying rates due to the change that they underwent in order to create cultural survival. There were cultural negotiations, especially in diversity in language and ethnics. Native Americans soon became dependent on European trade, and their commerce also influences warfare patterns. This new contact with Europeans brought diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza at a rate as high as 95%. Columbus led Spain's exploration, which founded the Americas. Other well-known explorers included Vespucci, Balboa, and Magellan, who navigated the globe, and De Soto, who hit Florida. Spanish conquistadors were independent adventurers commissioned by the crown who traveled in search of gold, and for the spread of religion and glory. One such conquistador was Cortez, who conquered the Aztecs, and Pizarro, who conquered the Incas. Natives of both were weakened by new technology and diseases. There are three major parts of the Spanish Empire: exploration, conquistadors, and colonization. These new settlers permanently altered the social structure of America, specifically with their goals of converting as many as possible to Catholicism. St. Augustine was the first permanent settler in present-day U.S. The encomienda system was a system of production in Spain's New World possessions, which granted permission to conquistadors to enslave as many people needed to work a plantation, and was enacted by Don Juan de Yonte. The effect of this was to bring conquistadors large amount of land and Indians as labor. By 1650, there were 500,000 Spaniards in the New World. Unmarried males intermarried, and a mixed-blood population emerged. The French colonization of Canada started in 1608 when Samuel de Champlain founded Quebec. The French Empire eventually included the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes, and the Mississippi River. The French crown made little effort to foster settlement, but in what settlement existed, the fur trade dominated the economy, and Indians became valued trading partners. The English settlement of New England, the mid-Atlantic region in the South, started when the English entered the competition and claimed New World territory under King Henry VIII, but England achieved preconditions for colonization under Elizabeth I. The enclosure movement took away farmland for wool production, displacing farmers and leaving them with nowhere to go. This left a growing merchant class looking for investments. In the 15th century, the Portuguese charted sea paths from Europe to sub-Saharan Africa, where native rulers sold prisoners of war to the Portuguese as slaves. By the 17th century, this included about 1,000 Africans per year, and by the 18th century, 5.5 million had been transported to the Americas. Resistance to colonial authority included the Pueblo Revolt, Bacon's Rebellion, and the Glorious Revolution. The Pueblo Revolt was in 1680 when the Pueblos rose under the Pope led by Taos Pueblo and overthrew the Spanish Empire. On August 10, 1680, Indians in more than 24 pueblos attacked Spanish authorities. 2,500 Indians burned the colonial headquarters in Santa Fe. By the end of the revolt, Indians killed more than 400 Spanish soldiers and civilians. The Pueblo Revolt was the most successful acts of resistance by the Native Americans against authority. In the 1670s, the Indian people of the Potomac River had a conflict with tobacco planters who were spreading toward Virginia. Colonial rebellion against the governor of Virginia began in 1676 when Nathaniel Bacon led the uprising protesting Governor Berkeley's neglect of calls for a stronger military presence in the frontier to end problems caused by Indian hostility. The Glorious Revolution began in 1689 upon the death of Charles II, when James II took over and began to try to rein in the power of colonial assemblies. He abolished charter governments in New York, New England, and New Jersey colonies and combined them into the Dominion of New England. Edmund Andros was appointed governor of the super colony. Boston held the first uprising against Andros, and then in New York, a merchant named Jacob Leisler led a group made of prominently Dutch residents and seized control of the city to form a new legislation. Maryland overthrew the rule of the Calvert family by a group called Protestant Association. Monarchs eventually consented to the breakup of the Dominion of New England. Colonies revived assemblies and returned to self-government.